Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Well, it's good to see you. What an incredible week we've had. First of all, it's always good to be here. If you go on the Facebook page, you'll see Bo Snerdley and me just before he had the salad that Allie brought him. No one can identify the ingredients of the salad, but it's gone, so we can't even get it down to the lab. It's always a pleasure to be here. At the end of the day, I'm just a boy with a bus ticket and a dream. And first of all, we want to say hello to everyone who has given their time, their resources, their energy, their prayers, and thank you for what you're doing for Houston and the people of Houston, Louisiana, now Tennessee, and other areas impacted by this. Something we're going to do today. First of all, it's Open Line Friday, so we're going to do that a little bit later. I did get clearance. I had to undergo a physical exam. I was a little leery of that. I didn't know Bo was a doctor, but I passed. And I'm allowed to host Open Line Friday on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. 800-282-2882. Open Line Friday with your guest host, Ken Matthews. Excited to be here on the EIB network. And we would love to hear, not only from around the country, but if you are in a position, if you are in the Harvey impact zone and you would like to call, we would be more than happy to hear from you, get an update, cheer you up. You know, the amazing thing about what's going on in Texas is the greatness of Americans. And this morning, I was watching Fox and Friends. I was punching around because the hotel always has a nicer TV than me. And thank you, Bo, for doing that. I got like 6 channels at home. So I'm watching Fox and Friends, and Gloria Gaynor comes on. First of all, I didn't even know she was still around. She sings I Will Survive. And it made me tear up. Because, first of all, she sounds just like she did when she put it on a 45 record years and years ago. Then she stopped, and she talked about America, and she talked about how God puts something in every human being that gives them the power to overcome adversity. I mean, it was incredible. I stopped in my tracks. And then she sang a version. So you may want to check this out. I know Fox and Friends has a website. Check that out. I'm sure they have it on there. She has a version of I Will Survive where she has rewritten it for people in Texas. It was just a beautiful moment. And as you flip around the channels this week, there's a few exceptions, but most people, with the exception of several people in the news media, who are still traumatized by the Trump election, with most people are showcasing the positive of what's going on in Texas, which is hard to believe because I'm looking at several screens now, everything from, Galveston, Corpus Christi, Houston, and the outlying areas, and now Louisiana's getting hit by the flooding, and they're no novice at this. They've experienced Katrina, and they're right on the water, so they're always getting hit with any storm. We have another storm that's heading our way called Irma, which right now is a Cat 3. And so we've got all this stuff going on. In the middle of it, I'm watching people talk about their homes. Their homes are underwater, and they're laughing, and they're getting along with each other. It is the most amazing thing. And when you let that sink in, when you go home to your home tonight, if you're not in the impact area, chances are all your stuff is dry. Your car's either in the garage or in the driveway. It's all dry. Pictures of you and your family, all dry, all safe. Your kids are home safe. These people have nothing, and it will take years to recover, not just financially. They had an expert on one of the news shows this morning, and I'm not a big fan of experts, but this guy really had his act together. And he said these people will remain in shock probably for the next week or two because the survival instinct is kicked in. So you come home, you see your house is underwater, you start taking things out, you put them on the front porch or on the deck as the water recedes, you start drying things out. I noticed a lot of people have started cutting the bottom of their walls off. If you grew up in Florida, you know you do that. If there's a flood, you got to get rid of the walls. You got to get rid of the floor. And he said it's going to hit these people in the months to come. And that's when they're really going to need our help. So one of the things I want to do today, including talk about some great topics of the day. And by the way, there was some more. I'll leave that until hour 2 because that's a surprise. But I want to talk about the topics of the day. But before we go any further, I know there are so many people that want to help. And there was if you go to any number of websites, there's a handful that will give you a list of safe donation spots. But let me warn you, beware of links that come in. Like you can, like if something goes to your email and it says help now, and then you see a picture of a little boy and his dog in the flooded front yard or something, you got to be aware of that because this is scam central, just like it was during Katrina, and that's the sad part of it. The good part of it is the majority of Americans are helping. I was one of those people. Now, in Florida, where my parents live, and I'm not endorsing this, so before anybody goes crazy, but there are signs around, and Bo, you've probably seen this in Florida, that looters will be shot. To me, that is a wonderful deterrent. I can't think of a better deterrent. Now, I'm not saying to use that. I'm just saying that Florida takes that very seriously. I was in South Carolina during Hugo. South Carolina takes it very seriously. And I can assure you, and I know there's only, well, first of all, if you're a scammer, you're not listening to this show. You're out scamming. So here's the deal. Go to the site directly. You want to give to Red Cross? Go to the Red Cross site, the official site. Go to places like Charity Navigator and check up on how and where you want to donate. Charity Watch, GuideStar. There's something called the Better Business Bureau Wise Giving Alliance. Also, there has been a GoFundMe page set up, and they are coordinating with local and federal officials to prevent fraud. So that is a legitimate page. But again, beware if you get solicitation. That's what you have to be careful for. There was a big scam during Katrina called SalvationArmyOnline.org. It was one of the most lucrative scams. And right after Katrina, someone started scamming that out. And they made $50,000 in a few days because people want to give, they want to help. Someone had a great suggestion also earlier today. They said, if you know someone personally, get in touch with them. You might know someone in Texas, and they may know a whole bunch of other people, so you might be able to just fill a box with things they need and send it right to them. So these are some of the things I wanted to cover just at the front of the show, only because I know this audience especially, Rush's audience is probably one of the most, if not the most giving audiences on the planet, just as our country is the most giving country. But what is coming out of Texas for me, and that what makes me emotional is how positive people are. That just blows you away. Now the Marines are there, the Army, Marines, National Guard, of course. Air Force is there. But the Marines, there was a great picture. The Marines were in their amphibious vehicles, and they were driving down the road. And I can only imagine what that must feel like. If you're in a flooded home and your car's underwater and there's the United States Marines. So there's a lot to talk about today, and we're also going to keep you up to date on Irma, which is a Cat 3 now, and they're saying if it continues over water, as you know, that's where a hurricane gains strength, it could end up being a Cat 5. Also, and this is something that I know Bo is excited about, there's a research that has been released on why you should not let your dog lick your face. And this is a big thing. This is a big thing. Here's the deal, and you know this if you're a Democrat. Never let Bill Clinton lick your face, and never let a dog lick your face because of the bacteria and everything that's involved with it. So seriously, we're going to come up with that. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but now people are looking for monster trucks in Texas, which is the coolest thing because monster trucks are built, the way they're huge. So the monster trucks can now come into a neighborhood that's under 6-7 feet of water and rescue people and rescue other vehicles. Did you ever think that you'd be in that situation? God, if we only had a guy in our neighborhood with a monster truck. That would be great. 800-282-2882. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews. It is Open Line Friday, and we're eager to hear from you about, well, whatever. I got clearance. We got all kinds of stuff going on. We got the DREAM Act coming up. Should we send the people out? Should we that's coming up. James Comey caught in another web of lies. This is the 14th time he was caught lying to himself, and this is going to be great. That's all coming up on the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews, sitting in for Rush. Your call's coming up. This is the Rush Limbaugh Show. 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. In a shiny new studio. When I first came in, I wasn't sure if that was paint or Mark Stein's cologne. But I'm thinking, I don't know, it's a kind of combination. I like that smell. I grew up in a family of contractors. My dad was a painter, so I like all the different kinds of paint. 800-282-2882. I can see the headline now. Rush guest host sniffs lacquer. No, I'm not. It's open line. It's Open Line Friday. No, I'm not a huffer, Mike. 800-282-2882. And one of the things we want to do is extend an invitation to people that have lived through or are in the hurricane impact zone. And if you'd like to give us an update, or if you'd like to give fellow Americans words of encouragement, I can only say, watching and observing, you have so much courage. You're down there with courage. Many people have nothing. Imagine coming home to nothing. Everything's gone. It's you, and we pray that it's you and your family. You're in the boat, you're in the rescue vehicle, and that's it. And then you're on a cot in a FEMA center or something, wondering when you can return. And when you do return, it's going to take months, if not longer, to rebuild. And we'd love to get your input and take on it. And I know there's a lot of people that are praying for you, and there's a lot of people that want to donate as well. And now we see that the Harvey flood waters have extended to Tennessee, Kentucky, and Louisiana. And we will keep you updated on the Rush Limbaugh Show regarding Irma. Now, Irma's way out at sea at the moment, but they're saying by next week it could be a Cat 4. Right now it's got about a $110, 110 mile per hour winds, so it's a Cat 3. Could be a Cat 4 next week, and it could head toward Puerto Rico. So if you have an app or you can follow it, keep an eye on it. Let's grab a call. Robert in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Robert, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi. I just listened to what you were saying before, and I lived through Hurricane Andrew in Florida. Mm-hmm. And my company had some trucks, and we were driving down supplies down to Homestead. And I have to say, it amazed me, actually. People were out there directing traffic. People were making phone calls. They had phone booths at that time. They had banks of phones. Mm-hmm. Someone stood there and lined up. They were giving water to people who were walking around in the street. And I also saw that sign that was on, I believe, the front of National Geographic, where the guy said, this house is protected by Smith & Wesson. So it has to do with what you said before. But you can't believe how people just pick up and work together at this kind of a drastic time.
Well, thank you for calling, Robert. You know, your point is it's so clear because I do not think people on the far left understand how capable Americans are. And I think this is why people on the left, the Antifa, the Pantifa, and others, why they get so frustrated. Because we don't need big government. We don't need you, Senator. We don't need you, Congressman. We don't need you. Someone said on television today, I wish I thought of it, but they should say the slogan for Texas, might have been someone on Fox, should be, we got this. And think about it. The real first responders are you. The real first responders. Now, the rest of the emergency community are vital and incredible people. But to think that you need Senator so-and-so or Secretary such-and-such, you don't. And that is the most amazing thing, as Robert just said. And I remember Andrew, and people pull together. A switch goes on and they say, we have to help our neighbor. And that's why you see so much, and I think I'm going to say the D word, so everybody hold on a second. Diversity. Yes. Isn't it amazing how shocked the left always is and the news media always is when Americans get along on their own and help and love each other on their own without someone coming down and setting up a big bureaucracy? Now, I'm not a fan of self-governing. I don't want anarchy. But Houston it's kind of an interesting example of, yes, government should help, and it will, and that's what's been very impressive about the Trump administration. I think that the communication's been incredible, all the people visiting, but communication is the important thing. The government's saying, don't worry, when you call, when the phone's working, we'll be there. But the rest of the stuff, it's amazing what people do on their own. It's truly amazing. It's what really separates this country from any other country on the planet. Let's go to Casey, West Palm Beach, Florida. Casey, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Doing
good. Thanks for calling.
Good. You bet. I say let Texas sink. Let them sink. They don't want government. They never want government's help. Now all of a sudden they're underwater. They want government's help. Ted Cruz voted against Hurricane Sandy's funding, and a lot of Republicans voted against helping the hurricane victims of Sandy, and actually in Florida too. Screw them in Texas. I have no love for them.
Now, have you lived through a hurricane?
I live in Florida,
but have you?
I lost my place during Hurricane Wilma, actually.
Okay. And you really believe what you're saying? You're saying that the government should not help Texas in any way?
You bet your sweet ass. All of a sudden now they want help when those people vote against their own best interests. And now all of a sudden now they want our help. Screw them.
Well, Casey, I appreciate the call. I think you'll get a lot of people that disagree with you. I think there's entitlement and then there's assistance. And I think the government has an obligation when something is so extreme. That's one of the reasons we pay taxes. I mean, I do want to see, you don't have to come in and rebuild my house and make it even better. But there are some problems that are so big. That's why a government's in place. I don't think assistance should be a 24-hour, year-round thing. I don't think that, it should be nonstop. But this, to me, is a great example. This coordination of the military, civil defense, local, state, everybody focusing and getting these people stabilized and secure and safe at one time. That is kind of the government's job. That falls under the government's number one priority. And the government's number one priority is to keep its citizens safe. And this falls under that. It's not to make sure that you have free Wi-Fi or free apartment or free food, but it is designed to keep you safe and to stabilize society so you can rebuild yourself. Interesting call, and now the phones are going crazy. Fortunately, Casey did not give his address, so he'll be okay, but I'm sure there were some people listening in Texas that had a problem with that. A lot more on Open Line Friday. My name's Ken Matthews. Always excited to be on the Rush Limbaugh Show and the EIB Network. 800-282-2882. Open Line Friday. Right now we're talking about Harvey, what it means to all Americans. The number is 800-282-2882. And I hope you have a meaningful Labor Day weekend, by the way. It's hard to believe. Where does the time go? At the top of the show, we have a lot of calls to get to today, and thank you so much for filling up the phone banks here on Open Line Friday on the Rush Limbaugh Show. But at the top of the show, I talked about how, and this may come as a shock to you, you can't have, there's things that shouldn't happen. You should not let your dog lick your face. You should never let Anthony Weiner or Bill Clinton lick your face. That goes without saying, all right? But the seriousness of the dog licking, I don't think people realize it. And how many times does that happen? You come home, how many times you may have a friend, this really grosses out Bo Snerdley. I mean, he didn't even want to do the story at the beginning because there were some diseases in here that are so frightening. But dogs spend half their life with their noses in places that really shouldn't be and their tongue in places that shouldn't be. And there's this myth that a dog's saliva has some type of disinfectant quality. It doesn't. It's just the opposite. Contrary to belief, a dog's mouth is many times dirtier than a human's. Yeah, who would have thought? An animal and a human different? Who came up with that idea? 800-282-2882. Let's go to Joe in Exeter, New Hampshire. Hi, Joe.
Oh, hi, Ken. Thank you for taking my call. I couldn't believe it when I heard you talking about the bacteria that dogs can transfer to people, because my daughter brought her dog from California. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I had treats for him, and then he thinks he's a human being. And so he was licking my face, like giving me kisses, and I actually left his saliva on my face because I wasn't anywhere where I could wash it right away. The next day, I woke up, and I had an enormous red circle on the left side of my face that by the following day festered into an infection with red lines running down my neck.
Oh, my goodness. Are you okay now?
Well, I'm going to see a doctor. I saw a doctor yesterday. I'm going to see another one today.
Oh, this is recent,
second
Joe.
time.
This happened recently.
Yes, it did. As a matter of fact, I wound up having to attend my daughter's wedding with this enormous. No one wanted to believe that could have happened, but I don't have a dog. I've never had a dog lick my face really before.
Right.
But I couldn't help it. I love my grand dog. So anyway, I just wanted to confirm. You're right. You should never let that happen, because that happened on August 16th.
Oh, my gosh.
And the wedding was on the 19th. And I applied antibiotic ointment to it. Then I went to a pharmacist and started using Aquaphor, which is a healing ointment, along with the antibiotic cream. And now I have to, when I saw the doctor yesterday, I have to start using, I believe it's let me see, I have it here. It's a steroid cream.
Oh, my goodness.
So the steroid cream I just now have a red mark the size of a quarter, but after using it just yesterday once.
So that's basically shrinking it. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that there was some kind of a bite, almost like bacteria had bored into my skin. I don't know if it's a tick coming out, but I'm going again at 4 o'clock today to visit my doctor.
Well, Joe, thank you, first of all, for calling. I really appreciate it, and you seem to be in good spirits. But I'm glad Joe called and confirmed this wasn't fake news, because that is something that's always amazed me. I've never owned a dog. We had ducks recently, and you may have seen them if you're one of the 4 or 5 followers I have on Twitter or Facebook. We had ducks, but we've never had dogs. No, Bo, I did not let the duck lick my face. But the duck would snap at you. But the funny thing is, the genetic makeup and the bacteria of a dog is so different. The diseases and things that you can catch, Joe said it best. There are so many things that you can get from a dog's mouth. The most common causes of food poisoning are from a dog's lick. It's estimated that just under half dogs, 47%, carry the Campylobacteriosis infection. Yes. And this thing is scary. This is scary stuff. And I'm bringing this up because everybody I know, our neighborhood is full of dogs. Great dogs, great kids. Several dogs supported Hillary, but we let it go. But they lick on you, they jump on you, they come in and they greet you at the door. But the rule is, by the way, you never want to let a dog lick you above the neck because of the bacteria and the germs you can get. And it's so interesting. People will wash their hands. What do? What do you tell your kids? Wash your hands when you use the bathroom. Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands throughout the day. Don't touch anything. Wash your hands. And then you let the dog, who God knows what he's licked, lick all over your kid's face. The thin mucous membrane lining our mouth, nose, and eyes is a complete opposite match for canine bacteria. So when the canine bacteria hits our mouth, our nose, our eyes, it's just like an infection. And this just goes crazy. The dog's saliva is a safe haven for bacteria, like a whole bunch of stuff I can't even pronounce, and I'm not going to risk it. But one of the worst is sepsis. And sepsis is one of the most horrible infections you can get in an injury or even without a sore or whatever. So just think about that, and that could be one of the medical takeaways. And as I was telling Mike, I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, so I know my medicine stuff. Yeah. Mike wants us to set up a dog lick hotline. But in all seriousness, Joe, I wish you the best. This is nothing to make light of. But it's amazing. We could do a whole show on dogs, people that treat dogs like animals, and, you know. Oh, yeah. The people that let the dog. Was that on the air, your question, Bo? Oh, okay. I didn't know if they heard it. Bo brought up a good point. People that sleep with their dogs. Well, there are probably some women that trust the dog more than who they're dating, I would imagine at times, right? I'm just throwing it out there. Yes, the lesser of two evils. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. It's Open Line Friday. Well, obviously it's Open Line Friday if we're talking about dog licking. I mean, that's a component of Open Line Friday. Let me grab another call here. Robert. Well, I'm sorry. Paul. Excuse me. Paul in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, I just wanted to respond to this gentleman calling in from Florida, hoping that Texas falls off the face of the earth. And,
yeah, that wasn't very nice.
It was just ridiculous. And to think that we should support Congress porking up emergency spending bills when the country needs our help, needs us to put out the money, shell out the money, and then you got a Democratic Congress who loaded up the Sandy spending bill with all kinds of ridiculous spending. That's insanity. And so I would encourage President Trump to let Congress know we're going to help Texas out all we can, but if you send me a bill that's not clean, Texas, I love you, I want to give you what you need, but we're not signing it, because that kind of stuff has to end. That's the epitome of a swamp. When you take advantage of the go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you hit the nail on the head, and obviously that caller angry, but uninformed. You're right. Every single spending and recovery bill, whether it was a straight bill or an emergency bill, is packed with pork. It's got all this stuff in it. And that's what Paul was pointing out. The point is, send someone a clean bill, meaning send someone a bill that does, a three-step plan to help Texas. Not, as long as we're doing that, why don't you throw in this and that and this and that? And, one of the biggest frauds in some of these recovery bills as of late, and this really blossomed under President Obama. Under 8 years of Obamanism, what blossomed was shoving global warming garbage into everything. Every bill had a global warming clause. Every storm recovery. And don't forget, we need this much. We need whatever billion for global warming, this and that. Everything had something to do with global warming. And that's why the global warming hoax is so dangerous, because they sneak stuff in. As long as we're doing this, we should put in $1 billion research project so there'll never be another Harvey. And that's the ignorance of man thinking they can control the earth, which is, that to me is the funniest thing. You can control when a hurricane hits or not. But Paul hit the nail on the head. And I agree, we should help Texas. That's what we're designed to do. That's what the government's designed to do. But let's not turn it into, because we're right around the corner from the midterms, let's not turn it into something everybody wants to get in line and buy their votes and use the recovery bill to do it. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews on the EIB Network. We'll be right back. The Rush Limbaugh Show, Open Line Friday. What a treat to be here on Open Line Friday, and so many things to talk about. The greatness of our country, the resilience of Texas, and now we're learning Louisiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky also impacted by Harvey. So that open line goes without saying. If you're a first responder, if you're one of the many, many people I have been watching on TV, water up to your neck, all your gear, working 30, 40, 60 hours in a row, you know you are heroes in the eyes of everyone. And the people that have been impacted by the storm, and to see their sense of humor and their resilience. And yes, this is a Texas thing, but anybody who's lived through a storm, even a minor crisis, anywhere in the country, you know this is what happens. Americans get along on their own. They help. They love each other on their own. Americans, they sort it out. They don't need the bureaucracy coming in and saying, here's how you should talk, here's what you should wear, here's what you should eat. They don't need that. We sort it out on our own. It's been a tradition for over 200 and something years. Let's go to John in Orlando, Florida. John, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Yeah, Ken, you're exactly right. The American spirit's great to see when it's on display like we're seeing at Houston, no question. But that's not the reason why I'm calling. I'm calling based on the self-immolation of the media, and I'm all for that, by the way. It's dangerous for our country in a lot of ways, but I don't have a problem with the media self-immolating. What I have a problem with is the domino effect that it's having on the Republican Party self-immolating. Mm-hmm. And let me explain. The media clearly was 70% of the American people, poll after poll, coming into the election, don't trust the media. They have doubled down. They didn't learn anything from how wrong they were last November. And they're doubling down on it. And it's going to destroy them. And they've even gone so far as they're not even printing the truth. They used to print the truth surrounded by their echo chamber and people who believe what they believe. They're not even doing that anymore. But the problem is the people in Washington, they're not sticking their head out, and it's going to cost them. And I want your prediction, because I really think, and I know this is a dire prediction, but I think 6 years from now we may not have a Republican Party.
First of all, great points, John. That would not bother me. I would not lose sleep over that. I left the Republican Party 06, 07. I came back to vote for Donald Trump in the Pennsylvania primary, and as you know, Pennsylvania, which is my home state, was one of the states that helped swing it. I do think that this is an opportunity for people to see all politicians for who and what they are. And we've kind of figured that out with Democrats, the way they'll go after Trump nonstop. I even saw that during this crisis. You know, they're talking about his wife's shoes. They're talking about Trump's demeanor, his hat. I mean, give me a break. What are we, 13 years old? But the Republicans, as you said, some of them, they are rolling the dice thinking that if they get on the hate Trump train, or the I'm not really thrilled with Trump train, it will help them in the midterms. I believe that this is going to be another good opportunity to drain the swamp. In other words, if people want to keep coming out like the John Kasichs of the world, if they want to keep trashing Trump, please continue to do it, because at least we see your true colors. We need to weed some of these people out, the turncoats, the Lindsey Grahams, the John McCains, the Congressman Paul Rhino. We need to weed them out. So in a way, this could be a blessing in disguise for maybe not the Republican Party, but for an opportunity to realign based on values and ideology. For far too long, we let the parties tell us how to think and how to vote. And I think what we've seen in the last year and a half by the behavior of progressives in the GOP and Democrats in the media, we've actually seen that maybe the party system isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And I think we needed an outsider as pure as Trump. He's not pure as the driven snow, but you know what I mean. He is a real outsider. We needed someone to come in that was never in a party, never in politics, to just traumatize all the party bureaucracies on both sides. And now we're watching people melt down. And when they melt down, let's vote them out. I pray that every single GOP member gets primaried in the next 3 election cycles. And that should be our goal. If you have a problem with someone, primary them, vote them out. And we just keep doing that. It may take a little longer, but if we really want the swamp drained, we're going to have to help our president do it. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. The EIB Network, I'm Ken Matthews, back with more of your calls on Open Line Friday. Always good to see you on a Friday. It's Open Line Friday. My name is Ken Matthews. Always thrilled to be filling in for El Rushbo on the Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. We have some incredible callers coming up. And in fact, I don't want to start one now just because I don't want to get cut off because we have a hard break at the top. But we have people calling in from all over the U.S. With great comments and input on Harvey and what's going on. We still have to talk about the DREAM Act and what President Trump is going to do. And that is a very interesting debate. The DREAM Act, it was never a law. It was just an executive order. We'll be back. Well, buenas tardes. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show. Open Line Friday. The number's 800-282-2882. 72,000 people rescued so far from Harvey and $100 billion in damage from the devastation. We have now flooding from Harvey impacting Louisiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and we'll keep you updated on that. Open Line Friday, we're getting some great calls from around the country supporting people in Texas, of course, and we're always amazed at why the left in particular, and the news media, which is most of the news media leans left, we've learned that, why they're always so surprised when Americans get along on their own. And they help each other, and they love each other, and they respect each other. And it's amazing what happens when you throw a bunch of diverse people, race, sex, gender, socioeconomic, whatever, and there is a crisis, and you don't interject how they should talk to each other, how they should behave. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. No, you can't call that person that. Oh, no, you can say this, but you don't want to do that. Most people don't care. That's why so many people in the news media and so many people on the far left are traumatized when they hear real Americans getting along with each other and having conversations, and some of this is foreign to them. Because depending on what school you were indoctrinated in, you know, there's this protocol, the politically correct protocol. Yet when we see snapshots and video of Texas, we see this diverse group of people not really caring who or what their neighbors believe, just that, hey, we're American. We got to help that person. We have to do this. We have to help that person. Her pet's stranded. We have to help that guy because his truck's underwater. There's no political correctness in caring about other human beings. Let's go to Port Aransas, Texas. Brent, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir, Brent.
Oh, no, I mean Port Aransas. Did I get...
Port Aransas is correct.
Oh,
yes.
good.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you say that because it hasn't gotten a lot of national media attention with all the focus on Houston, but the entire Texas coastal bend was hit, and Port Aransas and Rockport were exactly where the storm came ashore with 130-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Ground zero, exactly. And if you go there, you would see that, absolutely. And you are there now? I just left. I've been there the last 4 days. My parents have a home there, and I've gone down to help them. And I trust they're okay. They're okay, yes. Actually, good. The entire community is doing quite well. Well, give us an update. What's the condition of Port Aransas and that neck of the woods? Is that near Galveston or south of it? Oh, it's far south of that. It's about 30 miles up the coast from Corpus Christi. Got it. I know exactly where it is. But it's exactly where the storm came ashore. Now, I just wanted to speak to your central point about people coming together and a diverse community regardless of who's doing what. I got down there just days after the storm came ashore, really the first day they opened the island back up to residents and homeowners. And it was amazing to see what was already in place. You already had the local community there that had food trucks on site. They were bringing in 18-wheelers with free water in the back of it. You had people driving around with ice chests in the back of their pickup truck, just handing out water and, sports drinks, even beer to anyone who needed it. The entire community was really helping out. The street that my parents were on in particular, there was a guy who came down with a bulldozer, and he cleared everyone's driveways, cleared the street. They weren't waiting around for some form of support or aid. They were just jumping in and doing it themselves.
So most people mobilize and get the ball rolling themselves unless they're taught that they don't have that capability. I think if people are taught,
absolutely.
Yeah, depending, maybe it's their parents, maybe it's school, maybe it's the people they look to, but I do believe that's a distinct difference between the far left and the far right. The far right,
I would agree.
Yeah, they're like, look, take responsibility for your own actions, do it yourself, you're independent, don't trust anyone else. It's not a matter of being paranoid, it's a matter of you must depend on yourself first. And then if other help comes, that's great. But if you wait for other help, there might be other pressing things, and you may be waiting a long time. And I think that's so evident with the Texas situation.
I think that translates well to the entire community. The local grocery stores are bringing in pallets of food. You saw in the central area of the town, they had already set up, and this was just a grassroots effort on the part of the mayor and the city council, to have a distribution center of sorts, kind of a swap meet where people could bring things if they had it and take things if they needed it. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the most amazing things, there was a local liquor store that lost its roof, lost its walls, literally the entire building came down. But the interior shelving was still standing and was stocked with, you name it, beer, wine, and alcohol. Even 5 days after the storm, those shelves are still sitting there stocked, because there's no looting on the island. There's no one there who feels compelled to just take from someone else. Wow.
That is a great report. Thank you so much for calling, Brent. I really appreciate it. It's interesting because in some states they would show up and tax that stuff. Like in Pennsylvania, my home state, they would tax it. Well, in my home state, the and maybe in yours as well, but the government is in charge of liquor sales. You ever hear of, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, which really, to me, is just, those are like core necessities, are they not? But anyway, why is there even an ATF? Think about that. Why is the government involved in your alcohol, your tobacco, or your firearms? I always wondered about that. But anyway, getting back to what Brent said, it's proof that we are a government by the people. If that isn't proof, what is? Within hours of a crisis, people take it upon themselves. They create their own infrastructure. One of the coolest things I saw, and I forget the name of the town, forgive me, but one of those big bedding stores, a giant bedding store, I think it was near Houston, they opened their doors because they had all the beds, so they became a shelter. They opened their doors, and they brought in food, and everybody was sleeping I guess they were sleeping on some of those fancy mattresses, But how cool is that? People do that on their own. People do it on their own. Now, we do need help at times. But I don't know what's more incredible, that this has become an example of resilience, or that the news media and the left can't get their head around it. They just can't wrap their head around, wow, look at these people. They're like adults and stuff. They can take care of themselves without any government getting involved. And that's true. Because before the Marines and the amphibious units came in, the vehicles, and they're doing a great job, and the rescue's doing a great job, and all the helicopter pilots, and you talk about dangerous work, trying to pluck people out of this mess. But before all that, the very, very first responders were who? Or whom? The very first responders were the people there. They were there first. It was their option, their choice to respond. And they are responding in a way that is setting an example for so many of us. And it's also humbling when you watch that, and then you go home and you get upset because, your kid spilt a half a gallon of milk on the floor, and then you're like, you see what I mean? This is why this is an interesting time, and it's an interesting time to see who will insert themselves in to the Harvey situation to leverage it for themselves, or who will insert themselves in without even being known and help out. And what we're finding out is there are thousands of people and thousands of businesses that have already taken it upon themselves without any exposure at all, without any media or press, to help out fellow Americans. Let's go back to Florida. Orlando, Kathy. Kathy, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. I'm glad you're calling today.
I'm glad I finally got through after many years of trying. So anyway, I wanted to address this whole thing of our two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to my friends who claim to be Democrats, what I'm hearing them when they're talking is so much about hate and anger. When I talk to friends who are more of the Republican Party, I hear a lot of sadness and I hear a lot of concern. But I think it's time we get real about what we really have in America, and that is we no longer have a Democratic Party or Republican Party. What we've really got is a progressive party, which means big government. And then we have this party, and I'll just call it independent, where I see Mr. Trump, President Trump, as being a fiscally conservative person who certainly has socially compassionate traits, like in the $1 million that he donated. So it's time for us to get real about putting everybody in a box of Democrats or Republicans, because that's not what we are anymore, I think, as a country.
Great point, Kathy. I'm so glad you called, because this is a great transition into what we'll be talking about coming up. But it really is the 2 years of the campaign, the 2-year campaign cycle. We were able to really see, I believe, the true face, the true core of the parties and the news media and various people by the way they reacted to Trump. And almost every reaction to Trump, right down to him giving $1 million to Harvey victims yesterday, I believe, or the day before, is negative, no matter what. So think about that for a moment. There is a guy who took $1 million of his own money. He's already agreed not to take a salary as long as he's president. Now, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty impressive. But people on the left, so much resentment, so much hate, so much anger. I've already gotten social media posts, well, $1 million is nothing to Donald Trump. I mean, that's like me giving $1 or something. And this is where we are. And this has to be taught. Just like President Obama said after Charlottesville, which was probably one of the few quotes I actually thought was appropriate for President Obama. He quoted Martin Luther King Jr., that hate has to be taught, just like love has to be taught. And I think people are being taught what side to hate. And whoever happens to be on that side, if you accidentally cross the street and you end up on the wrong side, or you vote for the wrong person, or if you're Dianne Feinstein and you say something like she did in the last 48 hours, this is an 85-year-old senator, icon of the Democrat Party, who I never agree with, but she did say, let's give Trump a chance. If he continues to learn, he might be a good president. Now, I want you to Google all that and see what her own party members are calling this woman for saying that comment. And that puts it in the perspective. Kathy, thanks for your call. I'm Ken Matthews, sitting in for Rush Limbaugh. 800-282-2882, the EIB Network, Open Line Friday. We're back on the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name is Ken Matthews, and thanks for listening. I'm just a boy with a bus ticket and a dream in a shiny new studio with 13 different screens. It's very exciting. It's like being in NASA. Maybe I'll post a picture. If they allow me, I'll post a picture. Mike, would that be permittable, or is it some top secret thing if I posted a picture of the studio? Okay. Sometimes you got to check, because it's like, it's really, there's like retina scans and fingerprints and everything to get in here. But it is a new studio. I mentioned earlier about that smell of fresh paint, which I kind of grew up with. Not that I sniffed chemicals, but My dad was a painter, so and you painters know what I'm talking about. Mineral spirits, isn't that the greatest smell when it's cold out? When you go into a room and mineral spirit and lacquer, the right mix of lacquer, yeah. But again, I'm not saying kids. I'm telling you right now, hugs, not drugs. But this brings back a lot of memories, this whole room. Let's go back to the phones. It's Open Line Friday, which is very exciting that I was allowed to engage in Open Line Friday here on the EIB network. Joel is in Binghamton, New York. Joe, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for taking my call, Ken.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on it's amazing that the storm hit last weekend, and already this week, on Monday, the prices of gas at the pump jumped 8 cents. Mm-hmm. Then again, it jumped 14. And when Elaine was filling her car up this morning, the lady said, it's a good thing you're filling up this morning because this afternoon it's going to jump another 25 cents.
Mm. And what do you think what do you think is causing that? I mean, you think that's a legitimate increase, right?
No, I don't understand how it can jump that much, that quick, that fast.
Oh, I see what you mean. But you are aware that I heard about 19, maybe 20% of the hurricane impact area refinery capability is now on hold, right? So that does knock some steam out of our own energy production, at least temporarily, right?
Okay. So where is the fuel, where do they make up the difference? Are we buying it? We have to buy that from somebody else? Is that what they're doing?
I think some of it is part of the SPR, that Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I know they've released a little bit of it. I don't know exactly how much, but I do think that comes at a little bit more costly to distributors, but I'm not sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of gas prices going up, but really in the big picture, maybe they pop up for a month or two, and then they kind of they normalize again when things are back online. So, but I hear what you're saying. It was quick. I don't know if it's distributors just anticipating the impact as we head into colder weather, and they're trying to hedge their bets a little bit because they don't know when things will be back online.
Yeah, but it just amazes me that the rest of the country is sacrificing tremendously in a lot of ways. I know there's a team of 4 guys leaving from here next week
in New York
to go down. Yeah, they raised like $1,200 so they could go down. One of the guys is actually going to move down there and stay.
Wow.
He's a young guy, and he's going to stay. But they're giving their time, unknown how long they're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a small sample of, the rest of the country that is pouring out help to that area, which is America's. I mean, that's who we are. We give when needed. And it just doesn't seem that the oil company is doing the sacrificing along with the rest of the country. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally offline, but
no, I can see your point there. Thank you for the call. I think the problem is we really don't know what's going on with the gas, the refinery, supply, demand. I can only imagine around the Houston region, you can't even get gas in some places just because it's underwater. I kind of look at it this way, and again, maybe this is the wrong way. If gas goes up 25 or 30 cents a gallon, for me personally, in the larger picture, if that's the hit I have to take from Harvey, I could take that. Now, I don't want people to take advantage of me. I'm not, we should raise the prices. But I do believe that if that, and that's one of the few things that has come out that it doesn't even faze me, only because I know the devastation. If you have $100 billion economic hit because of a natural disaster, the ripple effect of this, travel, airlines, airports, distribution. Think about all the factories in that region that distribute to other parts of the world. We'll be right back with your calls on The Rush Limbaugh Show. On Open Line Friday on The Rush Limbaugh Show, As we head into Labor Day weekend, I'm Ken. What? Well, it means that you can call and discuss any topic, and we're floating around with the topics as per, the thing. I'm not sure. They can ask questions about me. Now, why would they? Why are you so obsessed with the personal questions about me? Okay. Bo says, because I'm the guest host, I have to follow the protocol, personal questions about me. I don't think they care about that. I don't think they care about that. Well, okay, but I don't think they care. Personal questions about me. You said because I'm sitting in Rush Limbaugh's chair, and what did I say? I said, technically, this isn't his. His is leather. This is cloth. You see? I get it. The Maharashi, those are the rules. Yes. 800-282-2882 on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Back to Florida, and Maria. Maria, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Mr. Ken Matthews. I'm a long-time listener of Rush and first time to get through. Well, so there is this going on in Texas that everybody who has a heart and compassion are helping, and the liberal media is not really reporting any of these good things. Meanwhile, reverse the situation. If there is a trouble between black and white, Al Sharpton and Jackson is there. Where are they now?
Well, it's Friday afternoon. Let's see, but they're probably both napping.
I get you. Anyway, I just thank everyone that's really helping. If I could help, believe me, I would. And I thank you for your stand. I agree with you 100%. And I hope our president is listening to some of the conservative program, because I want him to hear that there are so many people praying for him and really praising what he's doing. He should not be discouraged by liberal media, because that's who they are. They are angry, whatever. Even if Obama was the one sitting on administration, they're still livid about something else or rather. So there's my comment, and God bless your program.
Well, thank you, Maria. God bless you as well. Great points from Maria. There is a pattern among the media, especially the further left the media is, and here is my theory. This is my theory. So you need the media to keep hate alive. You need the media to keep hate alive. And every opportunity in this country, whether it's Charlottesville, whether it's St. Louis, whether it's Milwaukee, no matter whether it's Baltimore, you pick a place where there's been issues or conflict, the media will look for the hate. That's what they have to keep alive. So, for example, I'll give you the best example of this week, one of many, but you have the First Lady and the President show up, and the media is fixated on Melania's shoes. Now, let that sink in for a minute. Why? Why would you be fixated on, don't get me wrong, they're great-looking shoes. I get that part. That part I understand completely. In fact, I think we need more pictures of the First Lady on the cover of magazines and less pictures of Donald, to be honest with you. But that's just me. But think about it. Think about that angle. Think about this. And Bo just showed me that. You were talking about Vice President Pence. And what was the angle of that? He was being, they said he was being presidential or something, or, the fact that he was down there. Thank you. The title was Mike Pence Suspiciously Presidential Speaking in Texas. Now, let that sink in. Let the stupidity of that sink in. The vice president is the surrogate for the president of the United States, the leader of the free world. So he goes down, and I thought he flawlessly represented the cabinet and the administration. I thought he was warm. I thought he was believable. And I thought the next time he needs to wear sunscreen because his face was really burned. But the bottom line is, look at the way, the lens the media looked at that. That was their takeaway. Their takeaway wasn't, wow, half the cabinet showed up within days, and they all have a mission. All the missions are linked together. The transportation secretary was collaborating and coordinating with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, which I had no idea there were over 500,000 veterans living in Texas impacted by the storm. Amazing. I had never seen that level of coordination. And then they throw it to the transportation, and they throw it to the labor secretary, who said, here's how we're going to get jobs back online. And then the energy, and they just went through the whole thing. And what the takeaway was for the media? I don't know. Mike Pence looks kind of presidential. What could this mean? Maybe it means that President Trump made another good personnel pick. Maybe that's all it means, that Trump surrounds himself with good people. And one more thing, to the First Lady. You can wear those shoes anywhere, anytime. It doesn't bother me at all. Let's go to Ruben in Brawley, California. Ruben, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Good morning, good afternoon.
And good day.
First of all, I had a question, but before I ask it, if I can just say that everyone here in Imperial Valley, California, is praying for all the people in Texas, all the victims.
Where is Imperial Valley? Because California's huge. Where is it?
It's on the southeastern tip of California, right next to it's right on the Arizona-California border. State lines, just next to Yuma, Arizona.
Oh, neat. Okay, cool.
Just down the freeway. It's nice area. I think it is. With that said, I had a question regarding Hillary Clinton. What I heard yesterday on the news, I don't know if I heard right, but she's going to be in Canada. I don't know if she's promoting her book, but she's charging $3,000. And, for front row, $3,000. And in light of everything going on in Texas, and if she's doing this, I just want a clarification. Another thing, I want to say thank you to our President Trump for donating $1 million of his own money. I know he's still going to get all kinds of negative publicity. The fake news, they're not reporting any of this. They're not. I read this on Fox News, and I heard you mention it. He's donating all this money out of his own pocket, and he's still not. Of course, liberal media is still going to go make all these negative comments about him. I think it's really sad. I'd like to know how much are these Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, Chucky Schumer, how much are they going to donate out of their own pocket if they do? Because I go by the belief that Democrats love to spend money, just not their own. They're the ones that kind of get up when the waiter or waitress says, I'm going to bring the check. They're the first ones to say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom.
Or that rich guy over there is going to get my check for me.
Right. So, just thumbs up to our president for everything he's doing. It's just amazing. And I think our First Lady, I love our First Lady also. I think she looks wonderful in them high heels. Very nice.
Well, thank you for calling, Ruben. This will be the big takeaway from the show today, That'll be Ken Matthews likes high heels. Anyway, what Ruben said about the Hillary thing, I heard that too. I heard you can get a variety of tickets in the low twos up to $3,000 to meet Hillary on her book tour. Her book tour, I guess the book is called What Happened or something like that. And there should be a follow-up book called Who Gives a Damn? Who cares? Seriously. Think about that for a minute. Honey, why don't we take $6,000 and then you and I can go and we can shake Hillary Clinton's ice-cold hands? What? Why would you do that? In other words, Hillary is over, kind of like the Democrats. So no wonder she went to Canada. Maybe she still has some gravitas in Canada. Maybe that's why she's doing it up there. She gets pounded by an outsider, laughed out of the party. The DNC collapses. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is being investigated. She's gone. Seth Rich is dead. So Hillary she doesn't move yet. Oh, that would be great. She leaves and goes to Canada to charge people up to $3,000 to meet her on her book tour so she can say the Russians and racist. That's why I lost. That's not worth $3,000. It's the Rush Limbaugh Show, and the number's 800-282-2882. My name's Ken Matthews. On Open Line Friday, we'll be back with a stack of your calls. Let's go to Ethan, driving from Pennsylvania to San Antonio. Ethan, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show. And, Mike, I still can't hear anything.
Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to talk about the Antifa movement, also known as the neoliberal fascists. Their foundation is so fragile because of the masks that they wear. Now, California, Virginia, and New York all have what's called a anti-mask, M-A-S-K, anti-mask law that they are choosing not to enforce. When Alabama did it, when they enforced their anti-mask law with their Republican governor, it completely dispersed Antifa, and Antifa will never come back to Alabama to protest. So the voters of these three states need to get new governors, or they're going to continue wasting their taxpayer dollars paying for the property damages that Antifa creates. Thank you.
Okay, I heard, Ethan, we're having some trouble, but if the is the signal still clear out there, Mike? If it's still clear, I'm just going to wing it. I heard most of what you had to say about the governors failing to enforce the anti-mask laws on the books. And I think you were right on when you said, I do believe that depending on what state it is, the governor is either pro-Antifa or anti-Antifa, and that's what we're dealing here. We're dealing with, depending on what state they're in, I think that's what we're dealing with. Virginia is a great example. Virginia, there we go. Thank you. What did you do?
You were listening to the wrong thing.
That was great. He just fixed it. Anyway, now you can still hear me. Ethan can still hear me. We're still on. So sorry about that. Again, we have a really cool new studio, and there were some buttons and things. We had to get them in line. So I do believe that just like with Virginia, California, New York's another great example. Maryland is the exception because they're changing administrations at the top, but they're still predominantly Democrat. Those are the administrations, I think, that with a wink and a nod, they're okay with some of what Antifa's doing. So I think you hit,
sir.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Now, did you say anything else that I missed? Because for a minute you dropped out. Go ahead.
Oh, well, also, I think we should stop calling them Antifa because it's drawing to the millennials that are nihilists and have nowhere else or no direction to go. Anti-fascist just sounds so cool. We need to start calling them neoliberal fascists because that's truly what they are.
Well,
they're communists that want one world power and control of the media and redistribution of wealth.
I would agree. Those are all good points. Thank you for calling, Ethan. And there is a breakdown. If you wanted to break it down, the Antifa is broken down into two parts. You've got the Pantifa. Now, the Pantifa are young members of the Antifa that still live with their parents. So, for example, a typical Pantifa, 34 years old, hasn't finished his degree yet, lives with his mom and dad. He's like, Mom, did you wash my black pants and shirt yet? So she does his laundry, and then he borrows Dad's bandana, and he goes out. He's a Pantifa. Then you have the Anti-Fact. So there's two parts of the Antifa. The Pantifa, which is the young, kind of ignorant, Mom, I'm going out to protest. Okay, don't burn down Starbucks. And then Anti-Fact. The Anti-Fact are people like Ashley Judd. They have PhDs, they have master degrees, they're loaded, they're just stupid. So you got Anti-Fact and Pantifa. Together, that's what you get. And that's why when you see for example, if you see a television broadcast of a protest, and the Pantifa, if you say to the Pantifa person, so what exactly are you here protesting? You're a fascist! That's the Pantifa. Okay? And then the Anti-Fact, sometimes they show up at the wrong place. They just never have the facts. They don't have the facts on the issue. Sometimes they're at the wrong place. Maybe they're outside of Disney World. Maybe they show up everywhere. Have you noticed that? They show up everywhere. 2 days ago, they were in Miami in the middle of this Harvey thing going on nationally. 2 days ago, the Pantifa shows up in Miami to show their anger at people who want to keep the Confederate-named street signs. Actually, it was in Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, Florida, there's a big thing. Google it. Hollywood, Florida, Confederate street signs. and the pantyfaz involved in that. So I'm glad you called because it gave us a chance to break that down. Still to come, why the left is always surprised when Americans can get along on their own. And a lot more on Open Line Friday. By the way, we fixed the knob. It wasn't mine. It was something here on the machine. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. And we're back on the Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews. We got all the buttons fixed. There are literally hundreds of dials and buttons in the new control room, and hats off to the engineers who have wired everything up. Of course, there's a button in Mike's control room. I pressed it, and the ladies' toilet flushed on the 9th floor. So that one is probably not hooked up correctly. Yes. 800-282-2882. A stack of phone calls coming up. It's Open Line Friday. Also, next hour, we're going to get to James Comey. I don't know why I call him Jim. I've never met the guy. James Comey and the latest set of lies and revelations that have come out. It's starting to look more and more like not only is this guy out for himself, but he was part of something that I don't know if the news media even has the guts to investigate. That's coming up next hour, along with the DREAM Act. And what do you think the president should do about the DREAM Act? It is illegal. It's not really a law. We'll find out next hour. And happy Friday. The Rush Limbaugh Show. Open Line Friday. What, did I miss that cue? I was jamming to the Rush. I was jamming to the Rush soundtrack. Yeah, but I was listening to the music. 800-282-2882. By the way, the brand new copier and the brand new studio, by the brand new audio equipment, the brand new microphone, it's out of paper. Just letting you know, I was fiddling with the copier. No, I was trying to print out the there's an update on James Comey. But if you didn't hear, GOP senators now say that there was a draft of a statement about Hillary, which pretty much said, nothing there by James Comey. And Trump, of course, is saying that it was all part of the inside rigging of what was going on. I got to tell you, based on the behavior of the DNC and the information that was in WikiLeaks and just a lot of things that have come out after the fact, either through Freedom of Information Act or lawsuits. Judicial Watch has had some very successful lawsuits regarding Obama administration policy and the Clinton campaign. And I got to tell you, the Russian thing is looking more ridiculous. And it's starting to look like it was trumped up, no pun intended. And the email investigation with Hillary is starting to look like it was really minimized by the news media on purpose. Because you hear so many people say that. What's the big deal? She got rid of some emails, or she did this. What's the big? She had no intent. That's the big thing. She had no intent. I mean, everybody knows Hillary is such a quality human being, and she cares deeply about you. Not. So if you want to weigh in on that, by all means, I do believe Comey, because he changed his story so many times and he leaked information he wasn't supposed to leak, and he started to call an investigation a situation or whatever they told him to call it. I just think that I don't trust him. And he came in with all this trust and goodwill, but he kept changing his story. And I don't even know if it was so much, I don't like Trump, I really like Hillary. I think what James Comey is, I like James Comey. I think James Comey is out for James Comey. And that's why we got the shift in testimony and the different congressional questioning. It's all different. There's no consistency at all. And this guy was the director of the FBI. So we'll see how the media plays it. Not that that matters, but I'm just saying. That, to me, is an indication. When the media starts to minimize something, my antenna goes up. When Anderson Cooper starts to minimize it, when Wolf Blitzer says, there's really nothing there, and neither is my grammar, when he does that, then I think there's probably something there. Let's go to John in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right up the road from where I went to college at North Carolina State in Raleigh. Hi, John.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm feeling good all under.
Long-time listener of the show, Rush's show, and first time I was ever able to get through, so I'm very happy I got through.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. The thing I want to pitch out there, and this might be a little controversial, and I certainly don't hear anybody else talking about it. Quite the opposite, actually.
Okay.
The donations and all the hoopla over raising money for Houston, and what actually disgusts me is I love Sandra Bullock. She's a fine actress. She donated $1 million, and I heard someone saying that she gave this fantastic amount. She's worth over $200 million, and that's pennies to her. All of these celebrities, and there's a bunch of them that are challenging each other for $25,000 donations. They make millions upon millions upon millions every year. $25,000 for them is absolutely nothing. And yet the media and all these people say, oh, it's wonderful that they're donating. They're not doing anything. Why? They're just putting their names out there. It disgusts me. I mean, I'm an average American. I struggle to go paycheck to paycheck, and I make almost $100,000 a year just paying mortgages and everything else. Everybody around me, they're struggling paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. But you have these ultra filthy rich people not giving anything back, and it just, why isn't this brought? Why doesn't anyone care? You know, we celebrate them when they give these ridiculously stupid low donations, and we pat them on the back and say, here's some more of our money. You know, I just, well, there's my 2 cents.
John, well, I'm glad you called, and thanks for checking in from Winston-Salem. You brought up some interesting things there. First of all, you know, the saying goes, any donation is good, you know, from no matter where it comes from. And we see this a lot when it gets filtered through either the liberal or progressive media, or when you filter it through the progressive filter. For example, you have people saying, well, I don't want to take money from Walmart, or I don't want to take $20 million from the Koch brothers to build a new school because then it would be from the Koch brothers or whatever. I get that. It definitely is. It's politically driven in the way it's covered, obviously. So somebody on CNN is probably going to really be excited about Sandra Bullock's donation, which was $1 million, and not really care about Donald Trump's donation, which was $1 million. And the bottom line is, there are people that give a lot more than that you never hear about. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of the issue here, that some people are giving, and I don't know what their motivation is, because I'm not in a position to give a lot of money to that. But I've often wondered why the celebrities don't just partner with the Red Cross or partner with a reputable organization. So I don't have a problem with them giving, and it's certainly, you know, like I said, she could have given nothing. So what I have a problem is people propping them up, like John said, every time a celebrity does something. Like you see that constantly. It's in the media churn. When celebrities give back, they get showcased, but isn't that what you're supposed to do? And I could go, you know, you could go to probably most churches in America and find people that give a lot of money, and you don't even know who they are. Those people that, you know, the pastor says so-and-so's house burned down, we're going to have a second collection. And there's people in that church that will give thousands of dollars, and you never even hear about it. And I do think part of it is political ideology. I think there is a part, I'm not saying Sandra, because I'm a fan of Sandra Bullock as well, but I do believe there are people, Al Gore is one of them, that like to posture or position themselves, you know, in that line of whatever it may be, crisis or whatever. Because if you really want to give, you would just give. You wouldn't. Oh, yeah. That Charlie Hebdo cartoon was disgusting. Bo just reminded me about that. I actually printed that out. That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Charlie Hebdo was the magazine in France. Was it 2 years ago that it was viciously attacked? They made some jokes about, at the time, they did some character things that were perceived as anti-Muslim. And their latest cover It's a French, now it is satire, and it's known as provocative. But Charlie Hebdo says, this is their headline, by the way, God exists. He drowned all the neo-Nazis of Texas. And then there's a picture of, like a hurricane-like flood and Nazi flags being submerged and people's hands and what have you. And I don't know, that is so beyond disgusting. That is such an attack. People whine in the news media about President Trump calling people out, like when he said in Australia, that one deal you did was not good. Or he'll call out anybody. He calls out our allies, he calls out our enemies. And he calls them out, calls it like he sees it. Here you have a magazine. Do you remember the love and support that was generated from this country toward the victims of Charlie Hebdo? Even though we didn't agree with some of their satire. Remember how outraged America was. Remember all the tweets. Hashtag love Charlie Hebdo, or whatever it was. Everybody does the hashtag love. And here they are mocking an entire state. You got to check it out. Google Charlie Hebdo. It's spelled just like it sounds. And see the disgusting cover they put on their magazine. And imagine if Rolling Stone did a similar cover about the attacks in Paris or Berlin or Brussels or any number of places. It really is terrible. I think there's too much politics involved in it, John, in all this stuff. And I'm always pleasantly surprised when I hear people have given an enormous amount of money. And one thing I wanted to talk about today briefly, before we get to another call and we have a break coming up, is how the young people are shining so brightly with the rescue operations that are going on. There are thousands of young people that are traveling to and helping out in Texas. They're volunteering. They're volunteer firefighters. And a lot of people don't know that close to 80% of the firefighters in the United States are volunteer. And many are young because many are getting old. They're getting too old to do it. I mean, guys will stay in 30, 40 years. So you've got not only that, but you have young people, instead of putting on a mask and throwing bricks at police, they've decided to go to Texas or to Louisiana or Tennessee and Kentucky. So let's make sure you thank a young person that's doing that, because that's a really standout thing to do, especially now with what's going on and all the indoctrination in schools and colleges. It's just great to see 20-somethings. I saw some on the news, and they said, well, we were going to take off, but we thought, we didn't have a lot to lose, so we might as well hang out and help people. That was so refreshing to hear. It's 17 past the hour. More calls coming up on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Oh, that would be my cue there. Okay, I got it now. Now I got it. I usually get what you're trying to tell me by the third hour of the show. So that means you're on. Got it. Okay. The Rush Limbaugh Show. My name's Ken Matthews. Open Line Friday. So exciting hearing from people all over the greatest nation on earth on El Rushbo Show, the most listened to show. Very exciting. And really quick, before I go back to the phones, I wanted to circle back to Hurricane Harvey impacting gas prices. It will impact gas prices because you have right now at least 8 refineries in Texas closed, and we do get a percentage of our gas from there. So the average price goes up 10% here, maybe 12% there, 30% there, whatever it may be. Not 30%, 10 cents, 12 cents, 30 cents, whatever. I'm looking at the various parts of the region. The biggest bump I see is about 33 cents or whatever. Now, as I said to the caller on the phone, if that's your only hit, and I know truckers, you know how much I love truckers, and when the trucks stop, America stops. We get that. And I'm not saying let's go with high gas prices. What I was saying to the individual on the phone, if the only hit you're getting from this horrible Hurricane Harvey, and you live outside of Tennessee and Kentucky and Louisiana and, of course, Texas, if my only sacrifice is another quarter per gallon for a few months, I can live with that. In other words, to me, when I look at all the ripple effects, there's going to be ripple effects with everything, with manufacturing. One of the biggest ripple effects, and people haven't mentioned this, and this is because, and I think it's only fair we mention it, there's about 20,000 or more people still stuck on cruise ships. And they haven't been able to get back to their jobs, to their families. Now, I know if you got to be stuck, a well-stocked cruise ship and an all-you-can-eat buffet is a good place to be stuck, with people scantily clad running around. I get that. But keep in mind, that whole industry is taking an impact. The airline industry in that region is also getting hit, the automobile industry. So there's a lot of ripple effects. And, if someone said to me, because of Harvey, gas is going to be $9 a gallon, I'm going to be upset. But if it goes up to the second or third lowest price before Labor Day, which it's at now, it's at the second lowest price on the Monday before Labor Day. That's what it was this week, since 2004. So we're still in a low gas zone right now. And I don't think that's one of the big issues. And no, I have to respectfully disagree with the caller. I don't believe that local gas distributors and companies are going to gouge because of this. I really think that they know better. I've heard very few instances of price gouging. Like the classic $10 for bottled water, and if you want a generator, it's going to be $5,000. I don't think at this point, I don't know if people are going to put up with that. And I just think the majority of people don't do it. And the few that do, I think they're going to be either booed or beaten right out of the city. So we'll see what happens. Let's go to Helena, Montana. Holly, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Yes. I'm 68 and I'm on a retired income. And I believe there is a mood in this country against people who are rich. But looking at Harvey and stuff, and your comment about the young people going down there, I also wanted to comment that hats off to the small and large businesses that are helping out down there, from pizza places to mattress companies. Mm-hmm. That's capitalism at work. And as far as the Antifa group, I think they should be characterized as terrorists, and shame on the left for not coming out as a whole and condemning them.
Great points, Holly. Thanks for calling. You're so right about small businesses. And talk about the unsung heroes go even beyond the first responders, beyond all those people that are doing all the dirty work, and they're up 30, 40, 50 hours, and, they're saving lives and rebuilding. The next level are all these companies that say, you know what, we have to do something because we're part of this community. And that's where all this stuff is coming. You have the small store owner or the grocery chain providing stuff for the community for free. And that's something we shouldn't overlook. So they are, and like Holly said, capitalism. That's what capitalism does. This doesn't happen under a dictatorship. This doesn't happen under socialism. It happens under capitalism. When people are allowed to grow their success in their business, they are completely comfortable with sharing that. It's when the government gets involved and starts shutting down success, that's when you get what's taught in a lot of our schools now. Resentment, anger. People are taught, well, you don't want to get too rich because then you need to be ashamed of yourself, or you should be embarrassed. Yeah. What do you need all that for? And that's the wrong attitude, because it is amazing how many wealthy people in this country give money and you'll never hear about it. But the next time you're at a hospital or an art museum or a college campus, I want you to go around and look at the little plaques on the different wings and the walls on the statue, and see that this person donated that, or this wing is, we're grateful to the such and such family for this wing of the Burn Center. Those are all wealthy people that, other than that little plaque and maybe a little write-up in the paper, they just received the satisfaction of giving back on that level. We're going to get back to your calls coming up. It's Open Line Friday on the Rush Limbaugh Show. 800-282-2882. Let's go to Decatur, Illinois. Phil, you're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, this is a comment about Casey in Florida. Called earlier and how he's upset with Texas. The Texas senators and representatives did not kill the bill. It was killed by the Democrats who added on all the fluff and the pork that overextended the reach of what relief was supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, any senator, regardless of party affiliation, that adds on to a relief bill is no better than the looters who come in and take advantage of a disaster. That is just unacceptable in my book.
That is.
I also want.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you sir.
I also want to point out, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, during Katrina, it was people from Florida that stood up and said, "Why are they giving money to Louisiana? We never had to take money."
Yes,
we've been through hurricanes.
There were people like
right?
that. Yes, there were a handful that did. Yes, Florida is very, and I grew up in Florida. They're very proud of their ability to storm manage. They've done a very good job at it, and other people have copied their best practices.
Sure, they've had a lot of practice, and I'm sorry he lost his house back during Wilma, but it sounds like he recovered okay. But it just irritates me that people do not understand who really is behind the destruction of a bill like that. And it wasn't the Republicans, it wasn't the Democrats, it was every senator who added on to it that killed that bill.
Good point, Phil, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's a good time to revisit that this happens all the time in Congress. To me, it's one of the flawed parts of our system, which is, to me, it's not perfect, but it's the greatest system in existence today. That's why so many other people try to take pieces from it and copy it. And that is when you do the bill and you name the bill. Let's say the bill is called Harvey Relief Flood Bill. Simple thing. Then what Phil was saying, and this is a lot of you already know this because you're the smartest audience in radio, so you know this, but tell your neighbor when they come over for Labor Day. Somebody jumps onto the bill and they say, I tell you what, I'll sign your bill, but I want you to put that little thing to strengthen the roadway by such and such exit. Well, that's not even in the floods. Yeah, but I won't sign your bill unless you give me some. What do I get out of the bill? That's what every bill turns into. That's what every law turns into. And some people say, well, that's how government works. That's what you get when you have Republicans and Democrats. No, that's what you get when you have selfish people. Like Phil said, there are selfish Democrats, there are selfish Republicans. If you're doing a relief recovery bill, every penny should go relief and recovery. That's where it should go. It's amazing, whether it's Obamacare, no matter what it is, when you get past the first few pages, you go into it and you go, what the heck is this? This doesn't have anything to do with Obama or care, or this doesn't have anything to do with relief. And I think that's some of the anger you were hearing from our caller from Florida. Phil was referring to someone who called in the first hour of the show, and they said, to hell with Texas, there were people in Texas that shot down our bill and whatever. And when you read the fine print, you can see why some things don't get voted on. Most Americans, I'll even go as far as to say most Democrats, would vote for clean bills, but there's people in the part, and I'm not saying Democrats aren't Americans. My point was, in Washington, D.C., the reason it gets so bipartisan is because there's always a handful of people that are in it for themselves. So you get a recovery bill, and it's got some other thing to take care of a company or a lobbyist or a donor. But if you keep it clean, no matter what it is, emergency recovery, flood relief, it's amazing how many people will sign on to it because nobody wants people to suffer. But when you start using a crisis to redistribute wealth, that's when you get pushback from people like me and other conservatives. If you're going to read, nobody has a problem with sharing, giving, helping. We have a problem when someone comes into our life and says, all right, here's what we're going to do with your money. We're going to take this money from you and give it to this person, and they're going to have to do this with it. And if they don't, we'll take the money from them, and that's what's going on. And we had 8 years of it, and Trump waded into this mess. Let's go to Solomon in Gulfport, Mississippi. Solomon, I'm glad you're called. You're on the Rush Limbaugh Show.
Hey, long-time listener. I've been listening for about 25 years, so made it through Katrina.
Glad to hear it.
I know what they're going through in Texas, and my point being, and I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon against the guy from Florida, but, I think there's a difference between, and Texas is very independent. They like their way, and they don't want stuff shoved down their throats. They don't want the government telling them how to micromanage their state. But I think there's a difference between the political and a natural disaster where it's not necessarily the government's has to come in, but they need help. I mean, Texas could probably do this just fine without the federal government coming in, but I think it's everybody pulling together, and that includes the government, the federal government pulling in and helping out. And I don't think it's political at this point. I think it's more of get everybody in a safe place.
I would agree, and very well put, Solomon. I appreciate the call. Glad you made it through Katrina. And that is people talk about the role of government constantly and how it's expanded, it's grown, it's become, and, I even had some of my liberal friends, I have two liberal friends left, and I even had them flood my inbox, all two of them, and they said, so I see you're all about helping Texas now, so you like big government now. Well, no, I don't like big government. I like government to do what it's supposed to do. Protect the American people, protect the infrastructure, protect our borders. And to me, this falls under protecting the American people. When you have people drowning, you've got disease, you've got all kinds of issues because of this. This is, to me, like an attack, if you will. Nature attacked Houston. The government's going to help out. I'm not saying you need to go down to Houston and everybody gets freebies forever. No, but the government should do that. That's why there is a FEMA. Someone says to me, look, your taxes go to FEMA. Your taxes go to the military. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with my taxes paying for your cell phone or your Wi-Fi, because my Wi-Fi and cell phone is obscene. It's the most absurd charge we have. And I know it's because my kids play those ridiculous games, but that's why. They play the video games. Dad, it's too slow. It's too slow. So we spend more on Wi-Fi than we do on the house payment because we have to have lightning speed. No, I'm just kidding, Bo. Bo's eyes went, what? No. But I don't think the government owes you Wi-Fi or phones or what they do owe you is an explanation for every penny they spend. And if someone comes to me and says, we spent your tax money to move these elderly people that were in the retirement home underwater to a shelter and feed them and help them rebuild, I don't have a problem with that. And most Americans don't. So don't come into that bill if you're a politician. The recovery bill, well, as long as, I was just thinking, as long as you're moving those elderly and helping them out, can you help out my friends? They're huge donors and they're in Utah. Dude, they're in Utah. But I'll still sign the bill. See, that's what we don't like. A lot more calls coming up. Wow, this is the fastest 3 hours. I think it's because Bo has a whip. That's why it goes so quickly. 800 Bo. Bo whip. 800-282-2882. I'm Ken Matthews on Open Line Friday. Let's go back to the phones. Jerry. Jerry, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh Show. Where are you today?
I'm right now. I'm in Beaver Creek, Oregon.
Oh,
and I'm traveling. So,
wow, what are you doing there?
I'm driving between two jobs. So I'm an electrical contractor. I'm just moving between the two jobs.
Nice. So what's on your mind today? And I'm glad you're listening.
Well, I wanted to comment on the price of oil is set by the world market. These companies, Exxon, they really don't have any choice about what Saudi Arabia and other places are releasing oil for and selling it for. The price is fixed. It's because it moves up and down. it reflects supply and demand. That's kind of the American way. So I don't think anybody's out gouging people for their cars. They're just strictly reflecting what the price move, and they have to move with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two things that always amaze me, Jerry, are when private individuals and excluding truckers, because I understand if you're moving tons of stuff, thousands and thousands of miles every week, it's a different ball of wax for the price. But when the typical civilian like myself, when we complain about gas prices or postage stamps, it's always confused me because to me, that's still a good deal. I mean, gas is what, 80% less than bottled water? I bought some bottled water last night at the hotel. I could have got, 3 gallons of gas for it. And then I drank it.
Go ahead, excuse me.
No, I was just saying, and the same with stamps. I mean, I don't even know, what is this first class now, 48 cents? So 48 cents, I put something in the mailbox in New York, and you get it in Oregon Tuesday. That's a good deal, I thought.
That's a great deal.
I mean, when you think about it, I know people are like, now he wants food, now he wants stamps to go up in gas. Who is this guy? Anyway, go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay, great. I appreciate the call. But you find that interesting. I mean, you look at the cost of stamps and you look at the cost of gas. And to me, especially stamps, that's a good deal. Because people will talk about that. But at the end of the day, and this is a weird moment, you're going to say, it was that guy filling in for Rush. He was saying good things about the Postal Service. But think about it. And I tell my kids this. You write a note to Grandma, and you better write a thank you note because you're due, because she got you some stuff 2 weeks ago. It's a reminder in case you're listening to the show, or a reminder to my wife. So you write a note to Grandma, and you put it in the mailbox, and for less than 50 cents, it's in her mailbox. It's like magic. It's in her mailbox a few days later. I still think that is one of the coolest things when you think about it. And I was thinking about that with Harvey. Because that's what they're trying to do. They want, as soon as the water recedes, they want to get mail back up for obvious reasons, because you have people that are expecting checks, expecting money, expecting correspondence. But I think that will be one of the first things back online, because I think like a lot of other government agencies, when led the correct way and pushed during a crisis, they do deliver. But for 50 cents, you can't go wrong. That's the funniest thing. People will pay. They'll go out to happy hour. Someone will go to happy hour. They'll pay $9 for a beer. $9 for a beer. And then the next day they'll be like, I can't believe the cost of these stamps, 48 cents. Oh. Or you'll pay $13 for a salad? Are you serious? I guess it's priorities. Do we have time to take another call? No, we don't. So stand by. We'll be right back on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Where does the time go? It is a very fast, fun show, thanks to you, the best listeners in radio. The Rush Limbaugh Show, 800-282-2882. Don't forget to go to rushlimbaugh.com and check out all the goodies there. And Bo said I can mention my Facebook, Ken Matthews, my Twitter, @Ken Matthews. See how clever I was on my Twitter name? I went with Ken Matthews. I was going to go something crazy, but it's Matthews with 2 T's if you want to check it out. Thank you so much for your great calls and your great listening. Again, I encourage you to, if you are giving, which I'm sure you're going to give at some level, to the hurricane victims in Louisiana, now Tennessee, now Kentucky, and, of course, Texas, make sure you verify who you're giving the money to, and stay away from links. Like if you get a third or fourth party link with a photo, it might be a scam. And you can always go to the main website. Have a safe Labor Day weekend. God bless.